Imagine waking up one day and discovering that 6 million of your shares, valued at more than 14 billion euros, simply disappeared. Your shares, your wealth, your family inheritance, evaporated. And when you start investigating, all roads lead to the same name, Bernard Arnault. This is not a suspense movie script. This actually happened just a few days ago in December 2025 when Nicolas Puech, heir to the legendary Hermes, filed a lawsuit against the richest man in Europe. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of a much darker, much more fascinating, and much more brutal story than you can imagine. Because what I'm going to tell you in the next few minutes is not about fashion. It's not about expensive bags or exclusive perfumes. It's about how one man transformed luxury into war, desire into a weapon, and blue blood into red money. Bernard Arnault doesn't sell products. He's not a designer, doesn't draw anything, doesn't create anything. Bernard Arnault is a hunter, and what he hunts are other people's dreams. While you and I buy things, Arnault buys desire itself. He understood something that few comprehended. Luxury is not about art, it's about control. And no one, absolutely no one in the history of modern capitalism has controlled the collective imagination of what it means to be successful as much as this 70-something French man, whom many call the Wolf in Cashmere. Curious nickname, isn't it? A wolf, but dressed in cashmere, elegant on the outside, predator on the inside. And that's exactly what he is. Arnault's fortune exceeds $186 billion. To give you an idea of what this means, if he spent $1 million per day, it would take him more than 500 years to empty that account. But money is just the consequence. What really impresses is the method. Bernard Arnault built an empire called LVMH, which today controls more than 70 luxury brands. Louis Vuitton, Dior, Givenchy, Fendi, Tag Heuer, Moet Chandon, Dom Perignon. If you've ever dreamed of having something expensive, you probably dreamed of something that belongs to him. But how did he achieve this? Was it talent, business vision, or something much darker? The answer lies in what I call the brutal strategy. And it begins in the 90s, in one of the dirtiest corporate wars in luxury history. I'm going to tell you about the Battle of Gucci. In 1999, Gucci was vulnerable, like a wounded gazelle in the savannah. Arnault saw the opportunity. He began buying shares of the Italian brand aggressively, like a predator cornering its prey. He wanted to control Gucci. He wanted to add another jewel to his crown. But there was a problem. François Pinault, another French billionaire, also had his eyes on the same prey. And that's when one of the most epic and brutal duels in the corporate world began. Arnault and Pinault, two wolves, one carcass. François Pinault was the owner of the Kering Group, direct rival of LVMH. The rivalry between these two men is so intense that it became folklore in France. When Arnault was about to close the deal with Gucci, Pinault literally ran over the negotiation. He came in at the last minute, offered more money, made strategic alliances, and snatched Gucci from Arnault's hands. It was a public humiliation. But here's the fascinating part. Even losing Gucci, Arnault earned almost 760 million euros with the shares he had bought. He lost the battle, but won a fortune. That's playing chess while others play checkers. Now you must be thinking, okay, he lost once. Everyone loses. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, it gets much more sinister. Because Arnault learned from that defeat. He perfected his method. And what he did next with Hermès makes the dispute over Gucci look like child's play. Get ready, because what comes next is chilling. In 2010, LVMH began buying Hermès shares silently, almost invisibly. They used subsidiaries, complex financial contracts, instruments that most people don't even know exist. They were called cash-settled equity swaps. Sounds complicated? That's because it is, and it's intentional. Complexity is the camouflage of the modern predator. For months, Arnault accumulated shares, silently, without fanfare, until in 2010 he revealed LVMH owned 17.1% of Hermès. The Hermès family panicked. It was a hostile takeover disguised as a friendly investment. Arnault said his intentions were friendly, but the family knew what was happening. It was an attack, a siege. And in December 2011, Arnault increased his stake to 22.3%. The Hermès family called it exactly what it was, an attack. Imagine discovering that someone bought almost a quarter of your family business, of the brand your family built for generations, without you noticing. It's like waking up and discovering that a stranger is living in your house. But the Hermès family didn't surrender. They united, created a holding company with more than 50% of the shares, and blocked any attempt at complete acquisition. It was a legal war that lasted years, and here's the most disturbing detail. Until today, in 2025, 15 years later, the consequences of that war still echo. The lawsuit I mentioned at the beginning, from Heir Nicolas Puech, is a direct consequence of that saga. Puech alleges that his wealth manager, the late Eric Fremond, sold his 6 million Hermès shares to Arnault without his knowledge, precisely during the period when Arnault was trying to devour the company. It's as if the wolf's claws are still embedded in the prey's flesh, even after so much time. Think about the audacity of this. Think about the coldness. Arnault didn't just try to steal a century-old company, he created a system so sophisticated, so complex, that to this day no one knows exactly what happened to billions in shares. This is what I call the autopsy of a hostile takeover. And the scariest part? This is not the exception. It's the method. That's how the empire was built. Brand by brand, piece by piece, with a mixture of financial genius and business brutality that would make even Gordon Gekko look like an amateur. But why does Arnault do this? Why does he need more? With almost $200 billion, why keep hunting? The answer lies in the central thesis. For Arnault, LVMH is not a fashion company. It's a hedge fund that uses desire and cultural heritage as financial assets. Let me explain this in a way you'll understand immediately. A traditional hedge fund buys stocks, bonds, commodities, betting on price fluctuation. LVMH does the same thing, but instead of oil or technology, it bets on dreams, on status, on identity. Arnault discovered that you can transform what people want to be into paper, trade that paper on the market, and profit billions from it. Louis Vuitton is the perfect example. When Arnault took control of the brand, it was a traditional manufacturer of leather suitcases. Good, but not revolutionary. Arnault transformed Louis Vuitton into a desire-making machine. He brought designers like Marc Jacobs and Virgil Abloh, created limited editions, opened monumental stores in the world's major cities. Each product became a symbol. Not of quality, let's be honest. A Louis Vuitton bag is not functionally better than others, but of belonging. When you buy a Louis Vuitton, you're not buying stitched leather. You're buying the illusion of being part of an exclusive club, And that illusion is worth gold, literally. In 2023, LVMH billed 86.2 billion euros. Let that sink in for a second. 86 billion, selling bags, perfumes, and champagne. But it's not about the product. It never was. It's about controlling the imagination. It's about making you believe you need it to be someone. And it works. It works frighteningly well. Because Arnault understood a fundamental truth about human beings. We don't buy things, we buy identities. And he became the biggest seller of identities on the planet. Now you might be thinking, but wait, isn't this just smart marketing? No, it's not. Because there's a difference between selling well and monopolizing desire. Arnault doesn't want to compete in the luxury market. He wants to be the luxury market. When you control 70 brands, from affordable perfumes to million-dollar jewelry, you're not selling different products. You're segmenting the same dream into different price ranges. It's as if he created a pyramid of desire, and on each step of that pyramid, there's one of his brands waiting for you. And there's more. The rivalry with Pinault shows another side of this strategy. Remember the dispute over Gucci? Remember how they fight over brands, over artists, over space? This is not ego. Well, it's not just ego. It's market control strategy. When Notre Dame caught fire in 2019, Pinault announced a donation of 100 million euros for reconstruction. Noble, right? Less than 24 hours later, Arnault doubled the bet, 200 million euros. This is not charity. It's territory marking. It's saying, everything you do, I do bigger, better, more visible. It's turning even tragedy into advertising. This is the essence of the wolf in cashmere. On the outside, he's sophisticated, elegant, cultured. He collects art, finances museums, wears impeccable suits. On the inside, he's pure, predatory strategy. And perhaps the most fascinating thing is that he doesn't hide it. His nicknames, Wolf in Cashmere, Machiavelli of finance, are not insults he rejects. They're the trademark. They're part of the mystique. Because in the world of luxury, even cruelty can be glamorous if you know how to package it right. But here comes the part no one talks about: the human price. Arnault has 5 children, all occupying senior management positions at LVMH. They are seen as potential successors. But imagine being his child. Imagine growing up knowing you're part of a dynasty built on hostile takeovers and corporate wars. Your legacy is not to create, it's to conquer. It's not art, it's domination. And when Arnault eventually dies, because even wolves are mortal, those children will inherit not just a fortune, but an empire that needs to keep growing, hunting, devouring, to stay relevant. It's a curse disguised as a blessing. And the employees? The artisans who actually make the bags, sew the clothes, produce the perfumes. They're pieces on a board, interchangeable. What matters is not who makes it, but who controls the narrative of what was made. Arnault doesn't need to know how to sew. He doesn't even need to like fashion. He just needs to control the brands that make you think you need it. It's capitalism in its purest and most perverse form. Desire transformed into commodity. Cultural heritage transformed into stock market shares. Now let's look in the mirror. Why does this fascinate us so much? Why is a man accumulating 200 billion selling bags and champagne more interesting than a scientist discovering the cure for cancer? Because Arnault sells us something that science cannot: the illusion of transcendence through consumption. He took modern existential emptiness and transformed it into a business model. Do you feel insignificant? Buy a Louis Vuitton. Do you feel ordinary? Wear Dior. Do you want to be special? Drink Dom Perignon. It's brilliant. It's sinister. It's the wolf selling his own sheep's clothing to the sheep. And it works because all of us, on some level, want to believe there's a shortcut to relevance, that we can buy our way into the Olympus of the successful. Arnault didn't invent this idea, but he industrialized it. He transformed aspiration into an assembly line. And the most impressive thing, he managed to do this while maintaining the illusion of exclusivity. Every person with a Louis Vuitton bag thinks they're part of a select club, without realizing the club has millions of members. It's the perfect magic trick, selling exclusivity en masse. So what do we learn from Bernard Arnault? That luxury is not about beauty, it's about power. That desire is the most valuable financial asset of the 21st century. That you can build an empire not by creating new things, but by buying the dreams other people created and charging a toll to anyone who wants to pass through them. The wolf doesn't need to hunt when he can simply buy the entire forest and charge rent to all the prey. And the story is far from over. As we speak, LVMH continues growing, buying, expanding. The lawsuit against Arnault over the Hermès shares may reveal even darker things. The rivalry with Pinot promises new chapters, and millions of people will continue buying products that cost 100 times the production value just to carry a logo that a clever Frenchman transformed into a status symbol. Bernard Arnault didn't steal world luxury. It would be simpler if it were theft. He did something smarter, more lasting. He became the gatekeeper of the consumerist Olympus. And now, if you want to enter, you'll have to pay the toll, with interest, forever. Because at the end of the day, true luxury is not in bags or perfumes. True luxury is having the courage not to need them to know who you are. But that, my friends, is a luxury Arnault cannot sell. And perhaps that's why he's worth so much, because he sells exactly the opposite. He sells the illusion that you need him to be complete. And as long as we believe that, the wolf will continue feasting, elegantly dressed in cashmere, while counting his hundreds of billions.